So having a look at the topic of injury prevention for volleyball. What we want to dive into here is making sure we're focusing our attention on the right areas. So we want to target injuries that happen a lot in the sport, but also ones with a reasonably high severity. So in volleyball, patellar tendinopathy is a really common one, ankle sprains and shoulder overuse injuries. See down here, fingers are happening a lot, but they're perhaps not that severe. ACL or rupture is really severe, but the incidence isn't as high. But yeah, a really thorough program would still address this because the consequence, if it does happen, is really high. But for this chat, we're going to talk about these three and give you a few little strategies. So patellar tendinopathy is jumper's knee. That's an overuse injury of the tendon. Key things in prevention is understanding how it happens. So when you do a training session, you jump a lot. There's a stimulus, and then the body needs time to react. If you do the next session too soon, there might be insufficient time for the tendon to recover. It's in a weakened state. You add the next stimulus, and you do that over and over until you're spiraling into an overuse injury. And so the classic case in volleyball is this happening with the talented kid, the kid who plays in team A, B, and C, or plays with the juniors and the seniors because he's really good. So managing or monitoring, I guess, and managing the loads of those kids is really important. Communicating well with all the different stakeholders is probably the main one there. Other thing to understand with patellar tendons is once they develop, often through this adolescence period, they will quite frequently stay with an athlete on and off, or in the background at least, throughout their career. So preventing it is really huge. So the main thing you can do with this is take the complaint seriously when they do present in the young athletes and adjust their workload to try to kill it off. With regards to some exercises to try and prevent it, it's important to develop the strength of the tendon, and we can do that through slow and controlled strength exercises. Spoken earlier about the whole progression towards strength training. The youth athletes will probably be at the start of this, so a good place to start with some of this for them is wall sits. It's something you can do in the volleyball gym. You don't need any equipment, so it's a little video you can have a look at there.
Alright, some isometrics for the knee. Get the quads on, a bit of tension, warm up the patellar tendons. You got your standard wall sit. Sit into a bit of a forward lean, load the glutes a bit more. You can play with a single leg hold on either leg. You can also do some heels up, soleus holds.
So there's a few variations that you can mix into a prevention program there. So that's touching on patellar tendinopathy. If we look at ankle sprains, in terms of preventing them, you can look at landing technique. So what I mean by that is having the athletes have good body control, that they're not jumping through the net, so they're able to land efficiently on their side of the net, control their body, so you're not spraying onto someone else's foot. There's some evidence to show that bracing and taping can reduce the severity of ankle sprains. And the other one you can really look into is some stability training, proprioceptive training, and you can do that starting with static things like standing on one leg, doing mini squats, doing arabesques in this one leg position, to more dynamic tasks, so like hopping in different directions. And there's a number of examples of those exercises in the Physique line and in the Volleyball Movement Competency 1, 2, 3 level program. Shoulders, there's multiple factors that go into shoulder injuries, but with the youth athletes, I think it's important to develop efficient thoracic mobility, so it's mobility of the upper back, learn how to understand how their shoulder blades move, and develop the strength of their rotator cuff in preventing some of these shoulder injuries. So it's a little video here. I'll take him back to the start. Put together some exercises to reduce injuries in some of the youth athletes. these are scapular setting sort of exercises. The athletes are learning to understand how their shoulder blades can move, setting them in a right position, forming various shapes, and doing some holds in those spots. The next one is a sleeper stretch. This is stretching the posterior capsule of the shoulder. Ideally, you would look at this if it's really necessary for them, but yeah, as a general prevention scheme, it's not going to hurt. This is wall slides, where you're trying to get the scapular blades to tilt backwards. This is developing that thoracic mobility we talked about, rotating side to side. We tried to design all these exercises so that you can do them with minimal equipment in the volleyball gym. Implement this into your programs. So there's a couple of ones with the TheraBand, rotator cuff strength, learning again how to move the scapula, again with a push-up, scapular push-up, so the elbows aren't moving but the scap's going in out. And here again, the thoracic rotation theme. So some ideas to get you going with some shoulder prevention work.